Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this discussion where we dive into building strong and ethical partnerships with trusted education agents to minimize risks and maximize prospective student experiences. My name is Angela Liang, and I'm from VCC, Vancouver Community College. With me, we have Fabiano Maciel from Langara College. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that VCC is located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations from time immemorial. As a settler myself, I am deeply honored to be able to live, study, play, and work on this land.
And I would like to acknowledge that we, Snowyeth Leyland Langara College, are located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam people, who in 2016 gave us a name on their language, in their language. Snowyeth Leyland, which translated into English represents House of Teachings, and we are honored to be here on their land. So our presentation today will take us through 4 stages. We are going to be initially talking about the start process to get into an agreement with agents, educational partners across the globe. We will then dive into communication tools and how can you utilize your communication channels to support your partners, providing access to information. We will then go through the processes that you can conduct to not only audit the relationship, but also make sure that you are providing them with the support they need. And we are going to conclude with some recommendations and the key features and topics that we discuss throughout the presentation today.
Thank you, Fabiano. Now, the first step is obviously considerations that you need to have when entering into an agent agreement. So when Fabiano and I were putting together the slides, we were gathering the different factors that we want to consider and what kind of communications that we want to have with an agent when it comes to selecting them, vetting them, requesting them to go through the application process, what information that we want to include in an agent agreement, and what classes, what terms and responsibilities, and how we want to onboard them after we sign that agreement with them, and to make sure that they have enough resources to be able to present the information from the colleges to those students effectively and in a transparent manner. So first of all, there are many institutions that have different models, and some institutions may have multiple people that are involved in the selection and signing process of an agency. So having a process in place and making sure that you have established some consistency is very key. You want to make sure that whoever is signing an agent in your organization follows the same considerations that you have established and well documented. So a lot of the times, especially for institutions in BC that have had a lot of agents to work with, oftentimes we meet with agents in events like ISEF, or we get an email from them asking if we can partner together. So having an internal assessment to see if we have the resources to be able to sign this particular agency would also be very important. Is your institution ready? After weighing the benefits and the risks of adding more agencies, have you decided to sign them or to enter into more discussions? And what kind of goals are you trying to achieve? Do you have sufficient resources internally? For example, do you have enough staff members to be able to help you put together an agent agreement and reminding you when to renew those agents? Do you have enough budgets? Do you have enough budgets to pay commissions? So these are important considerations. And most importantly, consider how the impact would be by adding more agents when it comes to supporting your current network of agents. Are you able to support your agents the same way if you work with 100 agents versus 200 agents? So thinking about how your institution is properly set up to support new agents would also be an important consideration before you start to have conversations with those agents. The criteria of signing an agency, again, will vary depending on your institution's type, your location, what the reason is for signing a new agency. Are you planning to recruit students from particular regions where you do not have any agency representation? What kind of agents are you planning to sign? A small one or a big one? Do you require them to have experiences referring students to Canada or to your province specifically? Do you need agents to have specialization in recruiting students into particular programs or particular regions geographically? What kind of channels do you want them to have for when recruiting students? Do you want them to have a very significant digital footprint? And do you require them to have branch offices in multiple locations, or is it okay if they only have the one office in a particular city? So setting those minimum criteria will be important, and the criteria can change depending on your own goals, what goals you try to achieve. Now, we also, Fabiano and I think that it is extremely important to have some kind of a meeting, an informal meeting or an exploratory meeting with the agents. Sometimes you may meet with them at ISEF. Sometimes they would call you or email you. But if you haven't had a chance to have an in-depth conversation with them about their company, for you to ask questions, communication styles, like how do they communicate with you? Do they have knowledge of your institution and Canada in general? So setting up a meeting to get to know each other. Remember, this is more like a hiring process. It's like you're hiring somebody to recruit on your behalf. You need to be able to build a little bit of a trust just even before you sign that agreement. You need to feel good about wanting to proceed further with their agent application. And once you have that meeting, you can either communicate that verbally, but we usually recommend that you follow up with an email so that there's track record. There's a trail of communications to let them know what your expectations are and confirm what their expectations are as well. Are your expectations aligned? What kind of support that you can provide to them and what kind of support they can provide back to you? For example, are you anticipating that they have at least a certain number of recruitment activities that they set up for you? And do they anticipate you to participate in paid marketing campaigns? So having that expectations clearly identified in the very beginning will also help. Now, if you have gone through all of the above and you decide that this is an agent that you want to proceed with a formal agent application, communicate very clearly to them what you're looking for. What kind of documents do you want them to provide? For example, a license, a registry, company profile, so that you know who's the CEO, who are the important people in their companies. What references do you need? Do you need references from Canadian institutions, or are you okay with overseas institutions? Do you need references from institutions in your province, or is it okay if it's any random DLI? What kind of timelines are you looking at for the agent application process? When would you expect to let them know? When can they start referring students officially? Is it after the onboarding or after the signing of the agreement? So give them a bit more information about what you're looking for. So after the applications are received, so you are assessing if they are a good agent that you want to sign. Also, make sure that you do the due diligence to check their reputations. And the reputational research can be done in various ways. For example, you can request official reference checks, which is, I believe, a very common practice by a lot of institutions. But you can also request unofficial or do some unofficial research. For example, you can check their website to see what kind of messages that they're sending on their social media channel as well. What comments are students leaving in their social media channel? What messages they're sending to prospective students? How are they recommending different institutions to students? What are they saying about Canadian education in general? Or you can check with colleagues in other institutions. If you are in BC, we are happy to provide those unofficial information, the anecdotal information, as much as we can provide, because we're all in this together. So do your due diligence, look beyond the reference checks that they provide officially. Now that you have signed, you're ready to sign an agreement, there are a few factors or a few things that we really want to make sure that you are also considering as well. First is the validity of the agent agreement. How long do you want to have the agent agreement valid until? Are you looking at 1 year to begin with? Usually, in a lot of institutions that we have spoken with, they are signing an agent for a 1 year agreement to begin with. And maybe after a while, if the agent is doing well, they assess that the agency is worth continuing that relationship with, but they may extend it to 2 or 3 years. At VCC, it's only 3 years. That would be the maximum duration that we're giving in an agency agreement. Sometimes you might want to have a different validity depending on the markets. Is this a very saturated and very established market that you might want to have a longer agreement or a shorter one? The other consideration is also the expiry date. Some institutions might have 2 or 3 different expiry dates. Some has only one. Maybe think about your internal capacity. Do you have staff to handle the administrative work? For example, we have one person that's helping us with generating the agent agreements. So I don't want to give her hundreds to do at one time. So we have 2 validity days, one in June and one in December, so that we kind of split the volumes out so that it's a bit easier to manage. But if you have the capacity to do everything at the same time, you could have at the end of the year or at the end of the fiscal year, depending on your operations. The terms in the agent agreements are legal binding. So whatever you put in the agent agreement needs to be really vetted very carefully. And if there is any dispute from the agent or any concerns, any questions, any complaints, we always want to go back to the agent agreement terms to make sure that these are all covered as much as possible. So state all the responsibilities that you want the agents to have. For example, the accuracy of information, the commission eligibility, and if something goes wrong, what kind of corrective actions you're going to impose on them. What are the grounds for termination? Or maybe termination without cause. You want to have those kind of clauses in there as well. And again, whenever there's a dispute, always go back to the agreement so you have something documented very easily to be very easily understood. The reason that we have this presentation is not just to talk about how we are managing agents, but it's also to make sure that we are in alignment with BC's International Education Code of Practice. And there are many items that we found that are good information that need to be put in the agent agreements, but we're only highlighting a couple for today. So the first thing is we know that some institutions work with agent aggregators. We also know that some agents do not want to work with agent aggregators at all. But whether if you use an agent aggregator or not, it's always a good practice and a good idea to stipulate requirements and responsibilities that are related to using a sub-agent, because you can never know if a small mom and pop shop will have an agent network, a sub-agent network that may be their friends who are also working in the industry that may not have a direct agreement with you, therefore are using this mom and pop shop to feed the applications through. So make sure that you have some language about how the responsibilities of the sub-agents will actually be borne by the agent that you're signing the agreement with. We think that would be a good practice to have. And also check in your agent agreement template. Do you require the agents to help students with their study permit? Because if you do, make sure that you have some language surrounding how if the agents are providing visa and immigration advice, they should be licensed to do so. We have made some slight changes to our agreement that we do not request the agents to do to send the application for study permit for students. We don't do that, but we ask them that they support it. And if they are providing immigration advice, they have to be licensed. So having these two clearly stipulated in agreement will really be helpful, especially if there is any concern from the agents or if there are any concerns from the students regarding the line of sight. Last but not least, some institutions have a legal counsel within their institution, Some institutions don't, but I think all institutions would have some kind of a division that look at risk register or risk assessment. So if you do, make sure that you provide them with your agent agreement template so that they can review it, to have all the legal language in the document assessed, and make sure that you're preventing the institution from having any kind of risk that could have been prevented. So getting some legal counsel to review it will be necessary, and also a good idea. Okay, so now that you have gone through all those vetting and a lot of work to make sure that you are doing the best of your ability to sign the agents that would work for you, and also have a really good working relationship together. You also want to make sure that you're providing agents with as much information as possible and easily accessible, so that they can provide the information of your institution and convey that to students. Now, I won't get into details. I think all of the information should be, as much as possible, made available on your website. So not just for the agents, for the students as well. Whatever information you're sharing with the students, they should also be made available to the agents, because they're only going to ask the same questions that the students are asking, if not more. So Fabiano will get a little bit more into more details in the next couple of slides regarding how we're providing information to the agents so that it's also helping the students and enhancing their study experience before applying and during the application process. Fabiano, over to you.
Thank you so much, Angela. So we have identified some key items that we believe are extremely important. Once you complete the onboarding process, it is important that we keep working on this relationship to ensure that they are having access to the information they need, particularly because here it's not only about providing information to our partners and training them, but also ultimately these partners are the ones dealing and talking directly to our prospective students and their families. So as we are working towards enhancing the experience of our students and making sure that they have access to proper information, we need to make sure that information is conveyed through that network of agents that we decided to establish. So the key and main source of information that Angela and I identify, and this is something that any institution basically will have access to, is a website. So our website is the most important resource of information. And we truly believe that by having your website as the key source of information can truly benefit the relationships that you're establishing overseas. Not only because agents are having access to your website, the website is of public access to anybody. So even students being supported by agents can utilize your website as a source of information to validate information they're getting through agents, and also do a dive deep into certain types of information that perhaps agents are not providing them with certain level of detail. So we also want students to be a little bit resourceful and find that type of information in our website. So the key topics of consideration that we should take into account when we are providing information through our website are making sure that the information we provide through the website is accurate, making sure that the information is relevant, and making sure that there's consistency in the information we are providing. So some institutions might decide to just utilize their main website as the source of information. Other institutions prefer to have a particular section separated from their main site, where they're going to focus all information and resources that are important for international students. So that's a decision that your institution has to make. Regardless of the decision that you make, as you know, we've been going through times of uncertainty and times where things and information are changing very rapidly. So as the website will be your main source of information, it is crucial that the information is updated to the website as it becomes available. So whenever you are talking to your partners, or whenever your partners are talking to your students and referring back to your website, they can be sure that that information is the most accurate information available to them. It is also important that your website provide to students and partners access to the guidelines that you utilize to manage and administer the relationships that you have with your educational partners. This way, not only partners are able to see that information publicly on the website, but also students who are being supported by your partners, they can go there and really identify what are the responsibilities of this partner. Are they providing the information that is required for students to make their decision? Are they missing something? So it's important that those guidelines are displayed on the website. Those are the same guidelines that you, as Angela mentioned, in your exploration meetings or investigation meetings or during the process of onboarding and training. Those are the key topics that you are going through with those partners to identify what are their responsibilities and what are our responsibilities as institutions. So it is important to have that information publicly available so students can also have access to those guidelines that will support them in obtaining the information and guidance that they need. And as we know, the website will not be the only source of information that we are going to be utilizing when communicating with these agents. It is very common for us to create particular documentation, PDF files, or even Word files that will be distributed through our channels. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you are sharing a particular document with your partners, that document, if it is an attachment to an email, that document can become expired fairly quickly, especially with the level of speed that information has been changing recently. So you can utilize those tools. It is important to have that sort of flexibility, but it is important that you connect that tool directly back to your website. And by doing that, you can reassure to your partners and your students that the website will be the place where they can find the most up-to-date information. So provided you have a structure behind it that allows your institution to provide the updates in a timely fashion manner to the website, anything else that you have that it's outside of the website should be referred back to the page that is pertinent to that particular section or information, so they know that if they are reading the material, if they are reading that email or opening that file 3 months after it was initially sent by you, they can go back to the website and find out if that information is still accurate. Now, another important information that we have to keep in mind, important topic actually that we have to keep in mind, is that we have to, as institutions, be humble enough to be open for feedback. And that's because sometimes we tend to design our tools based on the knowledge that we have, but not necessarily putting the shoes of those partners and students to make sure that information is conveyed in a way that they can truly understand it. So, and also we have to keep in mind that there might be some need of adaptation of the message depending on who you are dealing with. And that's something we're going to be talking a little bit later in a second slide. But try to make sure that the language that you're utilizing is actually understandable, that you're not purely writing a textbook on your website and trying to believe that they're going to be able to understand everything that you are conveying, trying to convey through that message. So try to make sure that that message is clear, that message is concise, but also in a language that our partners will be able to understand, that our students will be able to understand. We have to keep in mind they are most likely using English as a second or even a third language. So English might not be their main language or their mother tongue. So we have to keep that in mind. So keeping the channel open for feedback, understanding what is working for them, what is not working for them. Is the website actually functional? Can they find information? Because it is also important that we make sure that the information can be easily searchable on the website. So are they able to actually find information when they need? Those are considerations that you have to take into account, and you can actually get a lot of that through feedback. And once you hear those comments, insights from your partners or students, make sure that you go back to your drawing board and try to see what you can do to improve the way that the information is being utilized or distributed through your portal. Now, to support, of course, the website, we are going to have to design and develop a very strong communication plan. And that's something that we truly believe it's important. not only because we are trying to create ways to structure the way that we communicate with our partners, but by doing that, by creating a strong communication plan, we are ensuring that the information is being distributed in the format that is understandable, in the format that it's well received, and also to convey the message that we need to be conveyed in a timely fashion. So it is important that as you go through the process of identifying your partners and getting to know them and getting to train them, try to understand what are the tools and channels that work the best for them to be easily accessible. Maybe some partners are going to be utilizing email as their main source of information. Other partners might like to use an online tool or a communication chat tool to improve the level of communication with your institution. So it's important that you go through that exercise and identify which channels and tools are not only available to you, but also available to your partners, and which one are the ones that you're going to be taking advantage of to convey the information you need to convey. Identify the people you need to talk to at those partners when you need support with certain information, being information related to the partnership itself or information related to the students that you are talking to through your partners, and establish some sort of communication guidelines or etiquettes, as we can call, to make sure that the information is conveyed in a proper manner and also being distributed to the proper channels. It's not only about you identifying what are your key contacts in those through those networks of your educational partners, but also letting them know what are the key contacts in your institution so they can easily reach out to you when there is a need for that. You need also to identify clearly in your communication plan what are the frequency that you're going to be communicating with them and what kind of content you're going to be distributing to them. So content might need to be adapted depending on the region where they are located or the type of students that they are talking to or the demographic that they are dealing with. You might also need to consider maybe translating certain documentation or information so it can be easily digested by your partners and your students, or you can support them with translating that information so they can convey it properly to our students, our prospective students. So make sure that you take that into consideration as well when you are creating your communication plan. Do you need to translate material? Do you need to adapt it based on the region that you are talking to? Now, as we did that in the website, it is also very important that you keep the communication channel open for feedback so you can get these access to insights from your partners, whether or not the tools that you're utilizing, the message that you're sending is actually fulfilling the purpose. And if there is a need for you to improve any channels or any tools to make sure that the experience that they have is also a positive one. And make sure that you are proactive in the communication with your partners. Don't wait for them to get in touch with you. Make a plan to get in touch with them more often. Maybe even create some meetings to have a chat and see how things are going, if they need something, if something has significantly changed. Those partners can also be a very good resource of information, especially if they are located in certain regions that are important for you, because they are on the ground and they might have access to certain information that might take a while for you to gain access to. And they can be really good partners in identifying particular trends or even bringing your attention to certain topics that are not still in the main media or available to the general public. And as part of this process of being proactive, you have to also create the habit of providing your partners with ongoing training, not only to refresh the information, but also to bring them news about things that might be happening or coming up in your institution or in the market in general, things they have to pay attention to, changes like the ones that we are going through right now. But it's important to have ongoing training with them as well, because as we know, in certain regions, there might be a huge turnover in the employees of particular educational partners, those who are directly dealing with prospective students. They may be changing from time to time. So you need to make sure that you are always top of mind of those advisors, and the advisors have access to you and the materials that are required for them to support your students. Now, Angela will be helping us to dive into a little bit of the monitoring and auditing of our relationships and how we can make that process a little bit more robust. So you have better information when you are trying to assess the development of the relationships.
Thank you very much, Fabiano. So we can all agree that we're doing this not for the sake of signing agents and monitoring how they're doing, but really from the perspective of supporting our prospective students who may or may not have a direct communication with us, who are relying heavily on their agents. So making sure that we're tracking and monitoring how this relationship is going with the agents using data, factual information, and also information that you're gathering from colleagues from the industry as much as possible is really helping prospective students in that regard as well. We'll also be talking a bit about the renewal and the termination process that Fabiano and I have been doing in our respective institutions. But we also want to talk about a clear communication process that will help everybody. So first of all, the success of an agency and how that is measured can be different. But it's also important that you let the agents know what you're looking for ahead of time so that they are not at the very last minute know that you are not happy with their the working relationship, but you didn't really tell them in advance. So when it comes to a student success or the success of the relationship, we think that the application numbers, obviously, are they sending applications? Are the applications complete? Do they meet the requirements of your institutions? What is the ratio of an application to an offered, which means that they have met all the requirements? What about from offer to accepted ratio? What about accepted and then getting their study permit and then enrolled? So regardless of which funnel you're looking at and what stage of the student's journey you're looking at, try to be consistent, comparing apples to apples, comparing programs to programs and regions to regions so that you know that you're tracking the right data. And also, I think at the end of the day, is it worth your time and effort to continue working with a particular agent if they are not sending you applications? So really consider what would be the goal of you signing with an agent from a particular region. Do you want students diversity and program diversity? And if so, are you okay with them only sending a couple of students per year, but give you that diversity and market presence in the particular region that you're recruiting students from? The other success mechanism that we're looking at would also be if students are progressing through their programs successfully in your institution. Are you seeing that they are changing, they're requesting to change programs as soon as they begin because the program choices are different from what they have imagined or what they have been told from the agents? Are you seeing that they are not doing well academically, therefore are being put on probation, or they're failing and having to retake over and over again, therefore a 2-year program becomes a 3-year program? So again, it depends on how you're looking at student success, and does that really mean that the agents didn't do their job? So be fair to the process, ask the students how they're doing, and also ask the agents, are they running into any difficulties when recruiting students on your behalf? And are they providing the right information so that they are matching the students with the programs that that they love and will also be quite successful in? There are other mechanisms that you might want to use that may not necessarily involve data in terms of conversion. For example, when you are trying to set up an agent training, an ongoing agent training with the agents, are they attending? Is it difficult for you to get a reply from them to set up a time? What events are you doing together? Are you co-hosting recruitment fairs or student seminars? Are you able to get a timely response from them regardless of the topic? Or are they only trying to get in touch with you very urgently if there's a question about commissions? And also, are they asking relevant questions, or do they keep asking you questions that are very easily searchable on the website? For example, when do your programs start accepting applications? So if there are any challenges in terms of communicating with a particular agent, do you let them know that, hey, I know that you're asking these questions. They're very easily searchable on the website. Can you let me know why you are not able to find it? Maybe is it that our website was not set up properly so that you can find the information easily. Um, and again, gathering feedback is also an important factor when it comes to considering if this is a successful relationship. The feedback can be from internal or external. Get students' feedback. Students are the ones that are benefiting from this agent relationship or suffering from it the most. So in different institutions might have different mechanisms in place. We are planning to do annual surveys. We haven't done that. We have usually been sending our surveys to students if there is an issue that's being reported. But we want to start doing an annual and regular survey to check on students' feedback. Are they happy with the program choices if they are being referred by an agent? What is their satisfaction rate towards an agency? Did they feel that accurate information was provided by the agency? And give us information or feedback, positive or negative. If it's a positive feedback, great, we'll share that with the agents and encourage them to send more students our way, doing whatever they have been doing. If it's a negative feedback, we want to check with the agents to see was there any gaps in our communications, what could we have done better to make sure that they are providing accuracy in terms of the information that they're presenting to students. Also get the feedback from your staff, especially the admissions team of your institutions. Are they seeing, are there any major or minor issues with application submission? Or are there agents that keep forgetting to attach the English proficiency proof? Was there anything that's really bothering them? Was there any inconsistency in the information that they have provided? Have there been repeating errors? Or maybe the staff will tell you that I love this particular agency because they've always been so great. Then share that feedback with them. I'm sure the agents will love to hear that too. And are you able to get some information from other institutions, your colleagues in the industry? Or maybe sometimes other agents will let you know that such and such agency have been providing information that is not accurate. They will probably share that information with you. So be mindful of what information is out there, because getting that feedback internally, externally will really help you consider if this is a relationship that is worth a while continuing. And make sure that you document everything. I remember years ago, I'm the only one at our college that is managing the agent network. And years ago, I had to be away for a specific period of time for a few months. And we had to create an email address that is generic agents@vcc.ca so that we can keep track of those questions that are coming in. Because I was away, I was not able to respond to those emails and nobody could get into my email at that time. So make sure that you have everything documented. Do not rely on email. Email could be hacked. It could be deleted out of by mistake. So make sure that you have a system in place. If you're using an Excel spreadsheet, continue to use it. But if you have a CRM, that's even better. Document everything that you're sending to the agents, especially when it comes to expectations not met or requirements not met. If you have a particular tool that is very useful, consider continue using that, or maybe putting in additional resources to build a system that can keep track of all those documents. So we previously talked about how we want to set an agent agreement validity depending on maybe how new this agency is, or depending on the market, or depending on a lot of different factors. So it is important to consider what the factors are when it comes to establishing a process to either renew or terminate an agency that is no longer in your institution's best interest to work with. When it comes to renewal, how often do you want to evaluate this relationship? And what, so we talked about the different mechanism, different measurements that we are taking into consideration. But how often are you doing that? And make sure that you avoid any auto renewal language in your agreement, because it's always a good idea to build a process that, and also determine how often you're going to do that, and don't just let it auto renew. Do you require a retraining? Do you require the agents to submit another application? and how long of a validity are you going to give an agent if they are doing quite well but not stellar? Are you planning to give them a 3-year renewal or 1 year or 2 years? So have a consistent process in place so that everybody in your organization that is handling the agent agreement and renewal process will follow a similar process. So when it comes to deciding if you are going to stop working with a particular agent, what are the considerations? Why would you be making those decisions? What are the circumstances when it comes to terminating an agent? And what actions do you want to take before doing that? Do you send them a warning letter? Do you set up particular training sessions so that you're helping them to overcome those difficulties? So make sure that you are always following what is in your agreement. If your agreement says you need to give them corrective action and notices, you do that and document it properly. And again, this is a relationship that we're having with the agent. It's a relationship that needs to be nurtured. It's not a top-down kind of relationship. It's a collaboration. So as much as we want to make sure that they are held responsible for all the responsibilities that are listed in the agent agreement, we want to support them if we're noticing that they are not meeting those standards. So setting clear expectations, again, even before you sign the agreement, let them know what you're looking for, but also be very specific and remind them regularly. Inform the agents ahead of time and always refer to the terms in the agreement to avoid any confusion. So if you are providing them clear guidelines, if you're giving them very specific action plans to help them overcome some difficulties, I'm sure they will appreciate that as well. And if after all that you have done, the agents are just not meeting your standards, then follow that termination process professionally. And last but not least, I don't think we can we can stress this enough. Always refer back to the agreement and the clauses in the agreement if there are any disputes about anything, especially when it comes to commission, grace period for commission payment. If they forget to send you an invoice, what happens? So make sure that you're reviewing the agent agreement, maybe regularly or as long as it's in alignment with the BC Code of Practice, and as long as every incident that you have come across, you can actually find an answer in the agent agreement, then I think you are off to a very good start. Okay, so I will leave it for Fabiano to conclude our session and also provide some recommendations from us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela, for taking us through that process. We truly believe that this last stage that Angela went through is one of the most crucial stages of this relationship, especially because it is going to be an important step to determine whether or not, I'm sorry, whether or not this is the right partner for you and your institution. So now that we went through all of these stages, we decided to highlight the key points that we believe institutions should keep in mind, whether you are creating a process to onboard new agents and partners, whether you are willing to review your processes and see if there are things that you can do differently than what you're doing right now, things that you can improve, things that you can change, things that you should maybe remove from your processes. So we identified a few key points that will provide you perhaps with a very good structured approach and way to assess your partnerships and your conduct when it comes to establishing connections with educational partners overseas. So the first step, going back to the very beginning of this presentation, is to make sure that you conduct an internal audit and verify that your institution is truly ready either to onboard new agents, to increase the number of partners across the globe, or to support partners in certain regions where perhaps you don't have the expertise on. So make sure that you can check internally that your institution is ready for whatever project you are trying to tackle when it comes to getting in collaboration with educational partners. And as part of this internal audit, identify whether or not you have the tools and resources that you need. And the tools will be as simple as, do I have the communication tools that I need, or the softwares that I need to perhaps help me monitor and track those relationships? Do I have the resources to support these agents? As you know, educational partners require a lot of attention from us, a lot of interaction from us. So do you have enough time? Do you have people supporting you? And are people supporting you actually able and capable of taking on more work? So that's something that you have to take into consideration as well. As you go through this auditing process and you identify, okay, the institution is ready to go ahead with that, you have to sit down and create a very structured process. And we cannot stress this enough. We truly believe that by having a structured process, it really helps you to create consistency in the processes that you are completing for every single agent. So all of the agents are actually being assessed by the same criteria. They are being evaluated by the same key performance indicators, and that you are utilizing actually equitable ways of assessing those collaborations. So by creating this process, it also helps you to do a certain type of checklist. So you know all of the steps you have to complete in order to provide partners with a good experience, and making sure that across the line, all the way to the most important user in this process, which is the prospective student, that they are actually getting the information that they need from your institution through those partners. So creating a very structured process is a key point. And once you have established this process, make sure that these processes are in alignment with the BC Code of Practice. And on top of that, you also have to ensure that the process that you are putting into place is also aligned with the vision of your institution, with the mission of your institution, that through this process, you are going to be able to accomplish the ultimate mission of this project for your institution. Okay, so it is important that you not only align it with the code of practice, but also look internally about the priorities of your institution and how this process will support your institution in achieving that mission and goal. Ensure that you have the capacity and capability to provide your partners with accurate information, with information that is relevant to them, information that is provided to them in the way that they can truly understand. So if you're going to be using your website as your key source of information, as we mentioned here in the beginning, are you able to keep up with the updates on the website? Are you able to perhaps even restructure your website to make it more user-friendly for those partners and students who are overseas? Create a very robust communication plan. And by that, you have to remember to review all of the aspects of the communication with your partners. Are you going to be tailoring communication to particular regions? Are you translating content? What channels you're going to be utilizing? What tools are you going to be utilizing? How much how many times you're going to be getting in touch with your partners? When are the optimal times for you to do that? How are you going to be planning your onboarding and your ongoing training for those partners? So all of that are crucial points that need to be included in your communication plan. And always ensure that whenever touch point you have with them, there is always an opportunity to establish clear expectation and transparent communication with these partners. Angela mentioned several times during her presentation, having clear expectations help us to resolve a lot of miscommunication, even prevent a lot of miscommunication from happening. So it is important that you keep that in mind when you're creating your communication plan. Utilize your communication plan also as a tool to nurture the relationships that you're establishing with these partners. Again, nurturing the relationship, it's not only ensuring that the information is being well received, and that students are getting access to the information they need to get to make their decision and choose their institution, but also make sure that you are utilizing those connections with your educational partners to understand what is happening in those markets as well. Use that as a source of information to educate yourself about what could be potentially coming up in certain regions. And and take advantage of that relationship as well as a way to reinforce your connections in the region and ensure that whatever you are doing to communicate with your partners, that you are doing it in a way that it's well received by them. And then once you are going through this process, make sure that you can measure their engagement. So it is important that part of your process will include a way and a mechanism to record information. Angela mentioned this as part of her presentation. We truly believe that recording the relationship, it's important, like the key points about this relationship. So whatever is happening with this agent, have a platform or a way for you to keep track of all of that, because that's going to be extremely useful when you get to the point of not only evaluating and assessing the performance of this agent, but also checking whether or not they need additional resources dedicated to them, they need more training, or this is an agent that we truly don't want to keep engaging in the near future. So you can start working towards potential measures to terminate that relationship if necessary. So keeping that in mind, it is important because it will support you throughout the process. So it is always important to record information as you go along and not leave everything to the end, because when you get to the point where you have to assess the performance and then make an evaluation whether or not you want to renew an agreement or cancel an agreement, you don't need to spend a lot of time going back into your emails and documents to try to find out exactly what happened throughout the year or the 2 or 3 years that you've been engaged with this agent for. So if you are doing that constantly, you have an updated scorecard, if you want to call it that way, that will truly support you in making those decisions much faster and create a better picture of the relationship that has been established with this partner. So unfortunately, with this online presentation, there is no opportunity for you to send us questions or raise concerns or even items that you feel we could have touched a little bit here, but we would like to share with you our contact information, and Angela and I will be very happy to try to support you in your institution with any questions you may have. If you want to explore a particular topic a little bit in depth, or even understand how we are utilizing all of these tools within our institutions, we are going to be more than happy to have those conversations with you as well. So please feel free to share. I personally would like to thank you all for giving us space to share a little bit about this. It is important to say that this is by far a strict guideline and recommendation of what you should do. Probably you on the other side is also an expert in this field. You are also dealing with agents on a daily basis, and it's important that you also take into consideration your own personal experiences. What we are trying here is just to have a conversation and share the practices that we are currently taking into account in our institutions. But yeah, you have to also consider the experiences that you currently have in your processes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Let us know if you have any questions and have a wonderful day. Bye.